Tonight's presentation is, this is our second presentation, and we're going to be talking about the sort of like vocations. We're going to talk a little bit about Serra. We're going to talk about the foundation. A lot of things to cover, and hopefully we're going to get done in an hour at tops. But let's start with our Serra prayer for vocations. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. O God, who wills not the death of a sinner, but rather that he be converted and live, grant, we beseech you, through the intercession of Blessed Mary, ever Virgin, Saint Joseph, her spouse, Saint Junipero, Serra, and all the saints, an increase of labors for your church, fellow laborers with Christ, to spend and consume themselves for souls, through the same Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives and reigns with you in the unity of the Holy Spirit, God, forever and ever. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Okay, this is our second evening, and tonight we're talking about Serra in general. We're going to talk about the vocations, what the situation is in the United States. We'll talk about club operations and event planning. Next Saturday, so Saturday is the big one, which I keep telling you we might have to go an hour and a half. I hope not, but Saturday we've got a lot to cover. So tonight, hopefully we'll get started right now and then keep that down to just about an hour, I hope. So this first part is sort of the overview of Serra and a little bit of talking about our U.S. vocations. This is basically a piece of training that you can use with your clubs. So again, that training, you want to start it sometime after Easter, because most people will be taking office in about June, like maybe June 1st. Most of our clubs will change officers. And this is a great time in the spring to begin that training. Something you want to do in your training, and you take this PowerPoint, rip it apart, and use this as part of your training. We'll talk about Serra, the big picture of Serra, and about U.S. vocations. We'll talk about the mission and history of Serra. We need to also make sure that our clubs are aware when they say Serra, it's more than just their local club. There's Serra International. We're a part of a very large organization. There's the U.S. Council, and we're one of many councils that make up Serra International. We also want to talk about the status of vocations in the U.S. vocations in the priesthood. I've got the most current CARA statistics to show with you, and the numbers keep going down. It's kind of, to me, it's a little depressing, but we need to share those numbers with you. We'll talk about the club operations, leadership, and event planning calendar. Now, you'll get all that tonight. So the PowerPoints from tonight will cover these first two bullet points. The next two bullet points, vocation and programs, membership and communications, we'll cover on Saturday. Not covered in any trainings that I'm going to do with you is the treasurer training. That will be at a later date, and it will have an expert. It'll probably have Ed, it might have Bob, Candace's husband, Ed, probably Bob Campney and Mike Downey, but we'll put some actual experts, people who are accountants and can talk to and help train our treasurers. The other training that we won't be covered is the U.S. Foundation rep. And actually, Judy Shoemaker did that recently, I want to think, when she had an evening with the foundation and just talked about what the foundation rep can do. So that, again, is a specialized training. I'm not going to be doing it, but it will be offered later on. The training, the objectives, provide information, because we want a successful year. We want to give them the information they need. We want to give them some ideas on what they can be doing in their clubs. We want to find ways to inspire them, to keep those clubs moving and growing. And then really, and I said this a couple of nights ago, that we want to develop that leadership potential within the clubs. That is so critical. We need to be growing leaders, because like right now we look around as we're doing, like the nominated committee is meeting, and we're always asking, have you found anybody that we could bring into that leadership role? So we'll be asking regional directors. So always looking around and helping to develop that leadership potential. What should your training look like? Remember, gather and begin with introductions, maybe some sort of shared prayer or inspirational reading. I'll give you an example because I think I talked about that last time. Then use your main topics. You know, maybe you're just talking about Serra, maybe you're talking about operations or vocations. Maybe you're covering it all, but you know, make sure you've got that presentation and allowing time for questions and discussion, and then end with some sort of shared prayer, and just beginning and ending everything that you do with prayer. This is the example of inspirational reading, and I talked to you about this last time. This is something that the Holy Father had said. There was a private audience with Serrans in Rome back in 2017, and he used that example of Bethany. The Serra Club helps foster this beautiful vocation of being laity who are friends to priests, priests who know how to accompany and sustain them in faith and fidelity to prayer and apostolic commitment, friends who share the wonder of vocations, and the rest of it goes on. This is beautiful. This is such an inspirational quote that you can share with the clubs. And I think you can almost have like a little table discussion on this too. What does this mean to you? It's just lovely. But there's some other, I think I give you examples of other inspirational readings that you can do too. And you'll find those on the District Governor resource page. The big picture of Serra, I mean, we always start with the mission statement. And the mission statement is, I love this mission statement because you can memorize it. And that's the, I think, the best part about a mission statement, that you can memorize and then just keep repeating. It's almost like an elevator speech. Our mission statement: to foster and affirm vocation to the ordained priesthood and vowed religious life, and through this ministry, grow in our Catholic faith, grow in holiness. I mean, that's simple and profound at the same time. But we want Serrans to know this. We want them to see those three distinct missions. First of all, we're fostering those new vocations. So we're always looking around. It's so funny that the vocation meeting that I just left downstairs, we welcomed back a seminarian who used to be a member of our vocation committee, and he just left to start formation in August. So it was just neat to get that, to have him there. But then that was part of what we do, foster those new vocations. And then we affirm existing vocations. So we make sure that the priests and religious that we've already got, that we're constantly affirming them. And then growing in our own holiness. And I know Maury's on the call, and he's, I keep hearing that we're almost, our Call to Holiness manual is almost ready as it's been rewritten. So it's kind of exciting. We want to talk a little bit about Saint Junipero Serra. I mean, sometimes people join us and they don't really know who the saint is. So these are just some bullet points, but there's a couple of really good presentation on the District Governor resource page on Saint Junipero Serra. Born in 1713 in Spain, he's a Franciscan, and he joined them at the age of 16 and volunteered to go to a foreign land as a missionary, and when he was just 36. And he established, first of all, missions in Mexico, and then later on came to the United States when he was 56. He died in 1784 at 70 years of age in California. They say he traveled 24,000 miles on foot as a missionary, and his works were remarkable in spite of a lot of those challenges. He was canonized in September of 15 in the United States, and there's a lot of Serrans out there who went to the canonization, and his feast day is July 1st. So normally we try and have our Serra International gathering on July 1st. We can't do it this year because of the way the Eucharistic Congress falls, but hopefully we'll be getting back to July in 2025 when we're in Kansas City. Yeah. An example, our patron chose to be humble, very humble, and he was in constant pain. from a leg injury, but he suffered in silence. He believed in the power of persistent prayer. There's some stories out there about him. They had no food, and he basically just started praying, and all of a sudden some ships appeared on the horizon and brought food. So yeah, prayer was big for St. Junipero. And he was an advocate for the poor and marginalized of society. So there's a lot of good information out there, and make sure that the clubs know about who our patron. History, we started in 1935 by four Catholics in Seattle, so 4 businessmen in Seattle, Washington. So the Seattle Club is still the #1 club. In 51, this is really cool, we became an official apostolate of the Catholic Church, and we are the only lay apostolate officially aggregated to the church for vocation work. There is John Liston, when he was in Rome this past summer, took a picture of a plaque on the wall in the Vatican that is commemoration of Serra being officially aggregated to the Catholic Church, to the Vatican for vocation work. And we're the only organization that that's happened to. And I've got to get that picture from John and maybe incorporate it into this presentation. You know, our role is to be leaders. So make sure they realize that, the clubs realize we're leaders in the vocation effort. We lead by prayer, service, and fellowship, encouraging and supporting vocations, and then engaging Catholics about creating that culture of vocations. This is what we look like. The organization of Serra International, so that upper piece, Serra International, is the top there. Underneath that are the Serra councils. And we have councils in the US, Canada, Spain, Italy, the Philippines, Mexico, and then Australia, New Zealand, South Pacific, Brazil, Great Britain, and Thailand. So these particular councils serve most of the Serrans in the world. There are Serrans in other countries too, like Nigeria, some of the African countries. They don't have councils yet, so they basically have like trustees, but there are other pockets of Serran all over the place. Germany too has, I think, some pockets of Serrans, if I'm not mistaken. The Episcopal advisor for Serra International is Cardinal Collins, and he's from Toronto. He'll be with us in Miami. So if you go to the rally, he'll be there. Kurt Medico is the current president until June 1, and then Maura McQueen from Canada will become the president of Serra International. John Liston is our executive director, and our Chicago office has 3 full-time employees. So John, Giovanna, and Barbara Luster are our full-time employees, and then 2 part-time employees. Grace, and I think Eileen is the other part-time employee. Grace is a college student, and I think Eileen is in California and works virtually. We basically have 12,500 members worldwide, 12,500. And we have 398 clubs in 46 countries. That's amazing numbers, really. Then you'll also see under Serra International, the councils, of which US is one, the area trustees, those are areas without councils, so probably like Nigeria would be one, and then the Serra Foundation. So we'll talk a little bit about each of those. This is just basically the Serra International financial overview. They're a little bit in the hole right now, but some of that is because we've just put the new Club Express system in place. So that's our computer portal. So that's new, and so that's probably contributing to that. And then we also just contracted with Vianney Vocations to be doing some of our publications, so that we're not doing it in-house anymore, and Vianney Vocations will be doing that for us. So there were some large expenses this past year, and that's probably why we're a little bit in the red right now. What kind of value does Serra International give? It helps us remember that it's not just about the United States. There's vocation crisis in we just met with a consultant this summer in August in Chicago, and the consultant is helping us put together a strategic plan. And she was talking about vocations in the world, And she said, it's not just in the United States. Every country in the world, except some countries in Africa, are having vocation crisis, where there's not enough priests to fulfill the need. So it's not just us. This is a critical thing in the world. SI really helps spread that Serra model to all overs of the world, especially sometimes where there's no such vocation efforts. And it really helps to be adapted. They adapt really to that local culture. We bring Serrans together once a year, and then it coordinates all the different activities throughout the world. We have 2 upcoming international gatherings in August. The SI convention will be in New Orleans, and then in 2025 we'll be in Kansas City, which is that's exciting to be in the Midwest. I could almost drive to that one. The foundation, the mission of the foundation is to fund programs that foster and promote religious vocations, and it funds all sorts of formation programs for both men and women in consecrated religious life, and it really helps to get the name of Serra out there. Judy Shoemaker gave me these statistics, and she says over $3 million has been given since 2005 to advance the Serra mission. So when you give money to the foundation, they give that money away. They keep the corpus, so they keep a body of funds, but they give like the interest away, and people organizations can make a grant request, and then the foundation awards those grants. They right now have $2.4 million in assets, and that's invested as of 10/23, and they received $153,000 in donations in just 2022. So these are, Serra clubs that give money, individuals that give money, and they're, people who leave money in their wills too. So this is a wonderful opportunity to help with those vocations. In 2021, they gave away $134,500, and they gave it to 11 different organizations in the United States, 8 other ones in 8 different countries, and then remember the San Gabriel mission that burned, that was destroyed? We actually gave $35,000 to help rebuild that mission back in 2021. In 22, they gave 12 organizations $60,000, and you know what? Part of that, $60,000, $10,000 of that went to the U.S. Council to help pay for translating the Serra Spark website into Spanish. So 10,000 of that 60 came right to the U.S. Council. Some of that too went to the Institute for Priestly Formation in Nebraska, in Creighton University, which a lot of our priests will go to for retreats or just to learn to be spiritual directors. And then to 7 other countries and 5 countries, and 7 other organizations in 5 countries. So they're giving those grants. The money that comes in is really doing some wonderful work. The grant opportunities, tell your clubs, tell seminaries, convents, houses of formation, even diocesan vocation offices to apply for those grants. The vocation office in Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee, applied and got money to do their Melchizedek program and for their Avow women's discernment program. So encourage your vocation offices to apply. The application form for the grants is due by September 30th, 2024, and it's not that difficult. You do everything online. You just get a asked to start a grant. They give you a password. You just go in and fill out all your forms online. So, and it just has to be submitted by the end of September. this is about the U.S. Council now. So our president is Mike Downey. I'm president-elect, and our Episcopal advisor is Bishop Tom Daly. What a great guy from Spokane, Washington. Just an amazing, amazing bishop, and he has the best vocation director ever. Steve Morey's son is the vocation director there. And within the United States, we have 9 regions. So we're divided into 9 regions, and that's where our regional directors come from. So within those 9 regions, we've got 44 different districts, and each of those districts has got a district governor. You know, overall, we have 7,800 Serrans, and we've got 107. I don't think that's right.
We've been having a lot of new clubs, and we have several to be chartered too. So I think we have more, and I'm not. That's a good question, though.
And
Yes, Elizabeth?
well, on the side it says July 1, 2018. So
Oh, that means, see, it says U.S. regions effective July 1. They redid the regions in the United States. I want to think we used to have 12, and they just redid it. So as of July 1, we did have the 9 regions were developed. Yeah. Okay, let's see. I don't want to do it now. Okay, there we go. So just this, Ed was so wonderful, Candace. He gave me the numbers right away. So this is like sort of our financial overview. So the U.S. Council, we took in like 357,000 this in 23. That was our budget, was 357,000. We had expenses though of 358,000. So we're just in the hole about $600, which is almost nothing. And then this budget was, let's see, trying to think. So this would have been pretty accurate. I don't think they had done the year-end audit yet, but we're in really good financial shape for the U.S. Council is. What kind of value do we get from the U.S. Council? Because it's that wisdom of Serra throughout the year. I think Serra Meets is probably one of the greatest things we do, which reminds me, Bishop Cousins will be on the Serra Meets on January 13th, so not this Saturday, next Saturday. Bishop Cousins will be there, and he'll be talking about the National Eucharistic Congress that's coming up in July in Indianapolis. So you don't want to miss that. And if you do miss it, get the recording and play it at, you know, give it to your clubs, recommend your clubs play this, because this will be one of the better the Serra Meets. We're really a clearinghouse for sort of new ideas, problem solving. We've got great workshops. The Serra magazine is the last one. I was really impressed. I think it was the one that Vianney Vocation just did. Very nice. We always try and communicate those vocation priorities of our U.S. bishops. It's interesting. I was just on a call with Father Jorge Torres, works for the U.S. bishop, and he's the head of the Office of Clergy, Consecrated Life, and Laity. And he was just talking to us about some vocation issues. So we have the ear of the bishops through that. Newman Connection is that great organization we partner with. I'll talk more about it on Saturday and just tell you about some of the great things that they're doing on college campuses. Our Ignite Parish Vocation Ministry training, we go around to dioceses. We offer to come there. We train parishes to form parish vocation committees. We were just in Spokane and had a great time there. Greg Schweitz and I went. And then we have all those digital resources for vocation directors, and that's that Spark website. We give any kind of professional support for our volunteer clubs, because all our clubs are volunteers. I mean, all of us are volunteers. You know, none of us get paid. Our office staff gets paid, but that's about it. We maintain our membership records, databases, mailing labels. We also, and then this is something last year, a couple of the district governors were not aware of this, or clubs were not aware of it. We provide liability insurance certificates for clubs and vocation activities. So like I work for the cathedral here, and when someone wants to meet when an outside organization wants to meet here, I say to them, can I have a copy of your insurance certificate? So even the Serra Club, who will meet here occasionally, I want a copy of their insurance certificates. Chicago office will give this to you. So make sure that the clubs know about this, because this is where you can get that insurance certificate. And then the Chicago office maintains the website, which is really coming along nicely. Vianney Vocations is working on that too. Our dues, what does that look like? There's an $11.75 initiation fee. Once you pay that, you can get that new member kit, which is going to have the pin. It's going to have a prayer for vocation, the prayer for vocations card, a welcome letter, and a new member certificate. So you want to make sure that the clubs know that they can pay this and then get that from the Chicago office. For a full member, the dues are $50. So the international dues are $25.50 and the U.S. Council are $24.50. If it's a spouse or somebody under the age of 35, it's international dues of $12.75 and Serra U.S. Council dues of $12.25. Invoices will be issued usually in June and December, and then those payments to Serra International is usually due July 15 and January 15. And this is new, so the dues went up a little bit. The U.S. Council dues did. So, and I just think I saw an email, somebody saying, are you sure it's $12.75 and $12.25? But I had someone check this slide. I had the Chicago office check the slide, and this is correct. What did the dues do? It's really an investment in our church. We help sponsor the Newman College Connection. And if you don't know what that is, I'll be talking more about it on Saturday. We provide that sarahspark.org. We provide, the dues that Ignite Parish Vocation Ministry training. We don't charge the diocese for that. We go there, we send Serrans there, we bring Serrans from local clubs to help with that. The diocese doesn't pay for this. They don't pay to bring the presenters or for the materials. We also have the 7 Serrans prayer teams for all vocation directors in the United States and their assistants. We have those partnerships with the USCCB, with the NCDVD, National Conference of Diocesan Vocation Directors, Focus, which are the missionaries on college campuses. We were just at the SEEK conference last week, and I heard it was an amazing success. The Serrans in St. Louis just loved meeting all those college kids, and talking to them about vocations. We also build partnerships with NCYC, National Catholic Youth Conference, which was just in Indianapolis in November, where we had 25,000 high school kids roaming around the venue and coming to the Serra booth talking about vocations. And Serra Meets, which is an excellent program once a month, second Saturday of the month. Mike Downey put this together at the beginning of his term in 2022, and I think he's having so much success with this. This is his priorities, and he said, first of all, that culture of vocations, especially among Hispanic Catholics, and we've just started the Vice President for Cultural Outreach, and Jesse Gallegos has taken on that role, and we won't be I'll be talking a little bit about it on Saturday, but I really would love to have clubs begin to look at possibly having that within their own club, that VP for Cultural Outreach. He wanted to broaden the use of the Serra vocation tools in parishes and schools nationwide, encourage clubs to inform and seek advice from their bishop and vocation directors, and really strengthen that tie. And then recruiting the younger members, and then restart 5 Serra clubs, and we've surpassed that in starting new clubs and then restarting some clubs that had sort of just sort of died for a little bit and are now coming back. So Mike's done an excellent, outstanding job. Our challenges, we're still rebuilding from COVID. You know, really trying to get more people attending the club meetings, increasing that membership, increasing our visibility and awareness in parishes, because parishes are not aware of what we do. And sometimes, and this is still a case, we talk about it a lot, being confused with the Serra Club, which has nothing to do with us. And then, you know, sort of that limited Hispanic and other ethnic representation. So for us, those are challenges, but it's something that we've been working on. Comments now about Serra, the big picture, or questions? If you've got a comment or question, unmute yourself, and otherwise I'll move on. Okay, I'm moving on. We're talking about vocations. Still a crisis. It's not going away. Good things happening, yes. Ordinations are up a little bit. Graduate level seminarians are up. Number of diocesan priests is still declining. We're down 30% since 65. And yet the population, the Catholic population, is up 58%. So that's the dichotomy there. And while 35% of U.S. Catholics are Hispanics, only 14% of the priests are. And it's really hard for a young Hispanic male to aspire to be something that they don't have any experience of or they haven't seen. So we really, you know, that continues to be a challenge in the United States. Vocation trends, seminary enrollment trends are down. I mean, and they've been going down since the 60s, and we still think we're on that downward trend. And this is the latest. We ordained 451 new priests in 2022, but our diocesan priests are down 24 to 24,110 from a high of 32,000 back in 95. And that 95 probably started that. I think the downward trend would have started a little bit before that. So we still have a lot of room. If you want more numbers, go to Cara and download their whole report. It's a very thick report, but it's got all sorts of information and statistics for you. But definitely just type in CARA and you'll find their site, and then you can just download all that information. What we know about vocations, read this book. This is a good one, A Priest in the Family. But here's some really interesting points, like key influencers, priests, spiritual directors, mothers. They start considering seriously priesthood at age 17. They all spend time in Eucharistic adoration. Interesting. 60% of them were altar servers. Seminarians, 50% of them discern out. So 50% of the seminarians, guys who enter the seminary, will discern out. Yet 92% of our priests are happy being a priest. And this last one, the inability to marry is not a cause of the shortage, because mainline Protestant churches have the same type of shortage, you know, not having people going into ministry. Great book, though, by Father Brett. The Labouré Society, sometimes this is a really great thing for Serrans to do, where they help young people who have debt, student loan debt, get out of debt so that they can enter a religious order, so that they can become priests. The individual who is mentored learns about cash management, learns about how to pay down their debt. They are usually mentored by someone, maybe a Serran, and really, like, with monthly phone calls, just following up and helping them get out of debt. So it's a great opportunity if anyone is ever interested, just joining that Labouré Society, but we partner with them in that. Anything else on any comments or questions about U.S. Vocations? Again, get the Terra report. Okay, I'm going to move. So this is the second part about clubs operating and then event planning. So how do clubs work? The clubs are chartered actually by Serra International. They're governed by club bylaws and they actually have a number. I just asked somebody on the call Tuesday, what was your club number? Because I didn't have his name. But every club's got a number. Clubs are organized by their diocese and they work with the bishop and the vocation director. And remember, I commented on Tuesday, we don't go any place that the bishop doesn't invite us. So the bishop has to basically sanction us to be there. The focus of all Serra clubs is going to be number one, that prayer, that fellowship, and that service. The service at the usually at the whim of their bishop or vocation director. Recruitment is not our primary function. It's good that we do that, but we're service oriented. For our clubs, it's usually July 1 to June 30th is their planning cycle. Some operate on a calendar year, but when you think about how the vocation cycle runs, so most dioceses will ordain during June. So that's sort of a really good way for us to move through the year. But as a district governor, you want to get to know how your clubs are organized. Club bylaws, sometimes there's problems because clubs lose their bylaws, or the way they're operating now has nothing to do with what their bylaws say. Or sometimes there's really important language that's missing because IRS wants particular language in the bylaws. So we do have a new model of club bylaws that was approved by the U.S. Council, and you can find it at on the website. So it's in the club officers, district governors. So if you've got clubs that, I mean, that's a question to ask when you go visit a club. Hey, do you have a copy of your bylaws? When's the last time you looked at your bylaws? It might be a really good conversation, but if they need to redo their bylaws, this is the template that you want to use. We redid our bylaws, maybe about 10 years ago, just because it didn't reflect on how we were meeting, and it put some constraints on us because I think it said that we had to meet weekly, and that's not what we were doing. So just by redoing the bylaws, we could make it fit more what our club was doing. Clubs are structured. They've got the board. It's usually got current officers. It might have some former officers, president, president-elect, immediate past president. Standing committees, you could add, like here's the 4 basic standing committees, but you could also add the cultural outreach VP. You may also want to have your foundation, if you have a Serra foundation rep, it'll be in here too. Secretary, treasurer, club foundation representative, and then trustees. And you could have 2, 3 trustees, just depending upon the club. Board meetings usually once a quarter. I think ours are once a month. Membership meetings usually twice a month. Sometimes one meeting will be with a program, and then another meeting will be with a mass and maybe a breakfast. It just depends, but usually meetings twice a month. And then there's some annual events that might take place instead of that program meeting, you know, like an ordination mass. We do a clergy appreciation dinner, which will take place, you know, at one of our meetings, maybe a bishop's appreciation dinner. Some clubs do a really great thing for religious sisters. And then sometimes a seminarian lunch or dinner. We do one for seminarians and their parents right before they go back to school in the summer. But ask your clubs, find out what they're doing. How do they finance their activities? It just really depends. And this information is from a survey that was done in 2021. But if they have low dues, because I think our club has low dues, so I think our dues are $150. But when we gather and have a meal, you pay for your meal. The club doesn't pay that. You pick up the cost of your own meal. Other clubs will have very high dues, but the club will pay all the costs of the meals. Sometimes there's no dues, but everything is covered by fundraising. Or sometimes there's no dues, but expenses are just covered by cash donations. You just give whatever you can give. So it would be a good question to ask a club, you know, how are you financing, and see what they're doing. Different kinds of membership concepts. Friends of Serra, sometimes there's people who want to make that financial commitment to Serra because they believe in what we're doing, but they don't have time to come to meetings. They can become like a friend of Serra. Or some of them who are emeritus members, they can no longer be active, either for financial reasons or for health reasons. And you might just call them emeritus members. And they can receive like something in your newsletter. They can get a newsletter. You can invite them to come to different prayer functions. With those, there's no obligation to collect dues for the U.S. Council or for Serra International. Caveat, do not overuse these memberships because there is no support of the U.S. Council or SI. Do not have like 20 people that aren't paying any dues because that's not helpful for either the council or for international. So you want to make sure that your clubs are using these very judiciously. But you know, they need to know that there are things that they can do. There's also, you know, we do make some stipulations for people who are under the age of 35, so they can definitely pay less money. But I don't think lack of finances should keep someone out of being a Serran. So, you know, advise your clubs judiciously. Thoughts on officers. Consider 2-year terms for key officer positions. It's hard when your president is only on there for a year. Sometimes a year is not enough to get something done. When I look at SI and they go, the SI president is replaced every single year. That's hard because you don't have enough time to do much. So sometimes maybe 2 years could be something you could advise them. And then also when someone joins, don't make them the president. Don't make them the treasurer. Give them a time to learn. Put them on a committee. They need to do something, but not in some of those leadership positions right away. The goal is always to identify those new officers by April so that they can get that leadership training. Responsibilities, always focus on the president, but engage the officers as a team. Make sure that the bishop knows what's going on. If you've changed officers, you should, boy, one of the first things you want to do is let the bishop know and the vocation director know. Every club member has to do something. They cannot just sit there at the meeting. They have to be involved in some sort of a committee, in some sort of a project. They've got to do something. Otherwise, they're not engaged in the mission. And encourage them to do something in their district, region, or national or international events. If you know, like, if you've got a club in Florida, the rally is there in January, I would encourage them definitely to go. We'll be in New Orleans in August. I would encourage people to go. If they're in the Midwest, come to the National Eucharistic Congress because we'll have a huge Serra booth there and we'd love to have like tons of Serrans come. Keep the portal updated on officers and email addresses, and that's either done by the president or the treasurer. I think historically it's the treasurer because they know who's paid dues and who hasn't paid dues, and so they're the ones who could really be doing that. And then just that joy that comes from doing God's work through our ministry. They need to be a team because communication for anything they're doing is critical. So if you're going to be working in parishes, we need to communicate. We need that membership to engage our new members. Membership really needs to create that awareness of vocations of Serra in parishes. They can also inform new members of club events, anybody who's on the communication committee. Programs can help us retain new members, and then the treasurer can help us with that finalizing membership and notifying us if somebody's leaving. Communication helps us promote things with our programs. It helps promote those vocation activities. Our membership and treasurer help us inform new members and prospects. Programs depends upon communications, because without communications, they can't promote those club events. And programs really, and all officers need to help plan those quality programs. The treasurer depends upon membership, because if they can't get the membership there, they don't know who's completed an application form. And it really depends upon a communication for all those updated email lists. These are checklists for your presidents. So you hand this out to them, because this is what they need to be thinking about when they're talking to program committee. They need a master schedule, and it really, don't give it to me month by month, give it to me a year in advance so that I know what I need to be going to. So that whole officer team should help set up that annual program, and they should have the speakers identified, topics identified, and make sure it has to do with the mission. Coordinate it with the bishop. Speak to his secretary. Don't go to the bishop, speak to his secretary. She knows his calendar. Any kind of appreciation events, everybody needs to know what they're doing for that. And then all those different special events, make sure you have a chair, and then all those responsibilities assigned for it. You'll see this. These are just different speakers that you can get, possible topics that they could use. So look at this. This is a nice resource to hand to club, because sometimes they are just thinking about, I'm only going to have someone come and talk about vocation stories, but there's a lot other things that they can be talking about. If you've got a speaker that you want and they're not local, Zoom them, because during COVID, we learned how to do that. And so many clubs, I know I went to a couple of club meetings and I went on Zoom, which was a good experience. And it's still a way to have a meeting. One of the clubs in Nebraska, they're praying in part of the Seven Serrans prayer for vocation directors. They're praying for a club, I think it's in Florida someplace, but they actually had a Zoom meeting and Zoomed in the vocation director that they were praying for, which I thought was really good. I mean, it gave the club a chance to see, personally see who this was that they were praying for. For vocations, the president's checklist looks like this. It wants to involve every single Serran in something, at least one vocation activity. So there are vocation activities within the club, and then that's sort of an outreach to parishes. But every Serran, I would say, okay, are you doing adoration? Okay, have you adopted a seminarian? Okay, are you involved in the Seventh Serran program? That's something that every Serran can do one of these. And then with the outreach, every Serran should be doing one of these, like maybe the 31 Club or the Called by Name program, or helping, maintain parish vocation ministries. But this at least is something that a president can say to their vocation committee, make sure we've got our Serrans involved in something. For membership, this is what the president can be talking about, making sure that we create that awareness of Serra in parishes. I think one of the easiest things to do is to have the vocation blurbs in the bulletin, because it's got, you put the Serra logo there, at least gets people thinking about, what we're doing. Inviting new members, sometimes it's good just to a meeting. This month, everybody's going to bring somebody with them, so that inviting new members becomes everyone's responsibility. And then if there's something special going on where you've got prospects coming, invite them to something that the bishop's going to be at. Membership should be doing something for a new member induction ceremony. That should be like we do it with the mass. I mean, that's a beautiful thing that you can do. And then retention is critical. I see so many, and Candace like will publish, okay, we've got these many new members, but then we lost these many members. So retention, it's not enough just to get new ones, but you got to keep the old ones. You got to keep them going. And some of that is going to be making sure you orient them right. You're always having good communication. You're very welcoming. Always introductions, name badges, friendship, and then engage. Immediately join at least one activity or committee. Get them doing something. Have them do like maybe a weekly or monthly rosary for Vocations, or spiritually adopt a seminarian right away. Retain them by getting them involved. President's checklist for communication within the club and outside the club, because within the club, boy, we need to know what the program schedule is going to be. We need to know who the speakers are. A monthly newsletter, because we give awards for some of those monthly newsletters, which are awesome. I just got one from Bridgeport, which is pages long. I have it here someplace, but it was just amazing. And they listed every vocation day in the whole year. Like coming up February 2nd is World Day of Prayer for Vocations. No, it's not. It's something, but February 2nd is something. I have it. World Day of Prayer for Consecrated Life. So that's coming up February 2nd, but the Bridgeport, they have them all there so that you just glance at it and you know what's coming up. But within the club too, maybe you've got Facebook, maybe you've got a website, something that you, like a GroupMe or a Viber or something, WhatsApp, so that you've got people connected with each other. But that's critical. And outside the club, making sure that bulletin announcements are getting in. If you're doing something, send it to the parishes around you. Making sure that there's reports if you've got a Catholic newspaper or a Catholic radio, letting them know what it is you're doing, and then also maintaining that website or Facebook. Some dioceses will actually let you have a space on their website. Indianapolis, the Archdiocese of Indianapolis gives Serra a page on their website, which is amazing because it just links the work of Serra right with the work of the Archdiocese. For the treasurer, the president wants to remember, looking at those financial, all that transaction, that reporting, that budgeting, and making sure that annual tax filing happens because otherwise we could lose our not-for-profit status. And then really maintaining the portal with the membership list and current officers. And then once a year, that audit, so that you know that everything's above board with the finances. And then I would want a bank statement at each board meeting. We're really saying that you should do that. This is the checklist that you want to talk to your president about for treasurers. And then also, this is you. That annual meeting with the bishop. So it would be you, the president and president-elect of your club, of every club in your diocese. And you prepare for that. Make sure the bishop's got an executive summary, one page of what the club did last year, and then what are they doing? What are their plans for the coming year? Talk about the prayer activities as a district governor. So if your club's doing that as a district governor, you may want to then do something like that for the bishop, one page just about what the U.S. Council's doing. I think that would be really helpful. You mail it to him in advance and a copy to his secretary so that she's got it and he's got it. That face-to-face meeting, don't read the summary, just ask the bishop for his input and any kind of recommendations. And ask for 20 minutes and hopefully you'll get a lot more than that. For all members, ask for them to do something. Ask them one by one, not in a group, but hopefully the president knows this. And we did this and it didn't work, but we did this, the Count on Me approach. A hard copy was mailed to each member with a self-addressed stamped envelope. And it said, okay, we need help with this. We need a chair here. We need this. We need this. She got one of the vice presidents got all the information back, put it on a spreadsheet, followed through, but she didn't get a good return on it. So I would tell your clubs, try this, but it didn't work for us, but we probably did something wrong. Anything about club operations or leadership? Questions on that? Because I'm getting to the end here. I'm getting to the end. Okay, all right.
And
Yes.
this is Juanita. I
Yes,
have a question on the Friends of Serra. Do most clubs ask for a donation, and how much usually?
That's really up to the club, and a lot's going to depend upon what their normal dues would have been. Like I said, ours are 150. I can't believe that we would ask for much more than 25 or something, or we might ask for more.
Okay.
But it's going to be up to the club. I think that's probably something that the club would just talk about and make that kind of decision. Because if you've got somebody with deep pockets, then you might want more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
But
you.
definitely have the clubs talk about that. Okay, so they should be doing some kind of strategic planning. And they're going to start with the mission statement, and that means the U.S. Council, our Serra International mission statement, to foster and affirm vocations to the priesthood and vowed religious life and to grow in our own holiness. That's the mission statement that they want to start with. And then they just sort of do like a SWOT analysis, strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats of what they did last year. Well, how good was it? Was it well attended? We did an event last year where we had vocation talks, and we did every known vocation, like consecrated religious, brothers, deacons, priests, diocesan priests, married, single, consecrated virgins. And we had some of the best attendance that we'd ever seen. And we had 2 vocation talks from different types of vocations. And I was just really surprised. So for a SWOT analysis, we would have said something like this works. And we're going to do it again, but not this year. We'll wait a couple of years and we'll do that again. But do that kind of an analysis. And then look at the Spark website for different vocation activities and make sure that your vocation activities are in different areas. So if you look at Spark, it has 4 different categories of affirmation activities, awareness activities, invitation and encouragement activities, and prayer activities. So you choose from those 4 and make sure you've got a nice variety of what you're doing. And then they get a couple of goals for every year. We do this when we do the Ignite workshop, and we actually work with the parishes to develop 1 or 2 goals for the year so that when they go back to their parishes, they're going with a strategic plan. Our clubs should need to be doing this too, so that they just don't say, okay, this is what we do every single year, without evaluating what they've done and seeing if there's some ways to improve. That event and planning calendar, once you've finished that strategic planning, put everything on the calendar. And then put all your diocesan events on the calendar. Make sure you've got the Eucharistic Congress on there, because that'll be happening this coming July. And then anything that the Universal Church has as an event, that would go on the calendar. The calendar is for 1 year, either July or January. And again, like events like, oh yeah, so August the 4th, St. John Vianney, patron of priests. That's an event that you could possibly have some sort of a prayer event, praying for vocations using that particular day. But get all that information from your strategic planning and then put it on the calendar. The Eucharistic Congress, July 2017 to 2021. We are sponsoring, thanks to the generosity of Serrans throughout the United States. we are a major sponsor, and we're owning like the Vocations Pavilion. So we're inviting 50 different religious organizations, orders, to have tables there and booths and do presentations. Our presentation and breakout will be on July 19th at 2. So if you're actually coming and you have a chance to sign up for a breakout, that's one that you probably want to go to. We also will have a special Serra get together on July 19th at 4. Over 1/3 of our local Serra clubs have donated funds to help sponsor our participation. You know, in addition to like individuals, the clubs have been just so generous. And we hope to see like everybody there in Indianapolis. I think it's going to be amazing. Yeah. Questions? Okay, all right, okay, good. There's sirens going off all over here. I work in the downtown area, so that's what you're hearing. We just finished all about Serra, Vocations, club operations, and event planning. The nitty-gritty is on Saturday, where we'll talk about Vocations, we'll talk about programs, membership, and communications. So really, this will be a really juicy, fact-filled session. And then on January 18th, if you are in Miami, we'll get together for a round table, and just like for your information. Okay, questions now, comments, anything?
And this is Kathy.
Yeah.
About that Thursday session at in Miami, that is
Yeah.
just going to be for in-house people that are attending, right? It's not going to be a Zoom for
I
those.
wish it is. I don't know. Let me ask John if that's a possibility at all.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no, I'm writing that down. Okay, anybody else? Questions? Okay, good. Then let's close with the prayer for perseverance for vocations. Okay, in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. O God, you have constituted your only begotten Son, supreme and eternal priest, for the glory of your majesty and the salvation of mankind. Grant that those whom he has chosen ministers and dispensers of his mysteries may be found faithful in fulfilling the ministry they have received. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Thank you all.
Very much, Ann. Thank you so much.
Thank you.